In a bizarre scene, an unidentified individual is seen holding a strange knife for his fingers, making a strange knife. Tina, a young girl in a nightgown, is rushing down ominous alleyways brimming with steam and shadows. The strange man lunges at her, smearing the glove. Tina screams and lies bolt upright in her bed, notices that Tina's nightgown has been slashed near her stomach. The cuts are similar to those made with a glove from a dream. The next morning, Tina meets with her classmates. Nancy and Tina discover that they have both had the same nightmare. Nancy and Glenn decide to stay with Tina on the night after her mother has gone out of town. Rod comes up later and terrorizes the three of them by making strange sounds in the backyard and then jumping out at Glenn. Rod and Tina go upstairs into a bunk bed, while Nancy and Glenn sleep separately downstairs. Nancy is wary of the idea of fumbling around because she and Glenn are supposedly there to provide moral support to Tina. Strange things begin to occur as all of them fall asleep. The wall over Nancy's bed seems to lose its solid shape, and the silhouette of a human figure looking at her seems to lean out of it. Nancy doesn't see it, her eyes are closed in half sleep, and when she awakens, the pattern disappears. Tina is awakened by sounds at the window in the room where Tina and Rod are sleeping. Someone is in the backyard hurling small rocks at the glass. Tina knows who is trying to intimidate her, and she goes downstairs to confront him. When she ventures out into the backyard, a phantom voice lures her into the alley, the same as in her dream. And then her stalker appears, a man in a fedora, a dirty red and green striped sweater, and the deadly glove with knives for fingers. Tina is taunted by laughing at her and yelling her name, and he rushes toward her with his arms reaching further than humanly possible, covering the entire alley, blocking her escape. Tina retreats into her backyard, where the figure leaps out again, this time from behind a tree. He slices off his own fingers and produces strangely colored blood spurts. Tina tries to make it to her back door, but the man grabs her and she fights with her. Tina is sleeping in her bed next to Rod, tossing around. She has been dreaming about this scene, but only the man seems to be under the covers with her. Rod awakens and takes off the sheet. But she is being manipulated by some unseen force. Tina is dragged up the wall, over the ceiling, and falls down into the bed, which is now covered in her blood. Nancy and Glenn have awakened and burst into the room, only to discover Rod had disappeared through a window.
Rod?
Tina.
Somebody there? Who the hell is that? Please, God.
This is God.
Nancy is describing what happened at the police station, and she speaks with Lieutenant Donald Thompson, who happens to be her father. Rod is the most likely suspect in the assassination, but Nancy believes that this is not the case. Although Rod has a reputation as a delinquent, Nancy knows that he is not a killer. As Nancy goes to school the next morning, Rod appears and pulls her into some bushes. Rod promises to Nancy that he did not murder Tina, but Lieutenant Thompson appears with his men and arrests Rod before they can talk anymore. Nancy is offended that her father used her to capture Rod, so she storms off. At school, exhausted Nancy falls asleep in English class, and she thinks she sees Tina standing outside the classroom door. Tina speaks to her from a bloody body bag, and Nancy sees the bag being pulled away by an unseen hand and follows the bloody path down into the basement. On the way, she is confronted by a female hall monitor. Nancy turns around and, smearing the strange knife glove and clinging at her. Nancy goes down to the basement and is confronted by the killer, who is wearing the same sweater. His skin is horribly scarred to the point where it could be seen. Nancy is entrapped in the boiler room and backed her against the wall, taunting her. "Come to Freddy," he says. Nancy rubs her arm on a hot pipe before he can slash her with a glove.
A little ere the mightiest Julius fell.
Nancy.
Tina? Tina?
Where's your pass?
Screw your pass.
Hey, Nancy! No running in the hallway.
Tina? 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 Who are you?
Come to Freddy.
Even though she is now awake, she has a large burn mark on her arm. She abandons school for the day, emboldened and afraid. Rod is in prison and confirms her suspicions. Rod is in the same hysteria as the other one with the glove. Rod informs her that he didn't kill Tina and leaves. Nancy is in a similar situation as Freddy threatens her. She falls asleep in the bathtub and is pulled underwater, dragging her into a muddy valley. She manages to swim back up to the bottom of her bathtub and pull herself to safety.
1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 5, 6, grab a goose. 6, 9, 10, never sleep.
In an experiment, Nancy enlists Glenn's help. It seems that she asks Glenn to follow her, but we suspect she is dreaming. Nancy goes to the jail where Rod is being held. Rod is asleep, and she can see the killer approaching him, walking right through Rod's cell's bars. Nancy yells for Glenn, but he is no longer there. Instead, the killer's voice says, "I'm here, Nancy," and he lunges at her, chasing her back to her house. The killer smashes the front door window. He is wearing Tina's face. Nancy wakes up enraged to find Glenn asleep next to her bed, as she had asked him to keep an eye on her and wake her if she felt like she was having a nightmare.
Glenn? Are you still watching?
Yes?
Glenn! Are you there?
Nancy, help me, please. Save me from.
Freddy.
This is just a dream. He's a
Nancy and Glenn compel to the jail to see Rod, as Nancy is afraid that the killer is about to strike. Rod's nightmare comes true as an unseen hand twists his bedsheets around his neck, stringing him up in his cell and breaking his neck. Lieutenant Thompson is skeptical of Nancy's allegation, as it seems Rod simply hung himself. Marge and Lieutenant Thompson seem to have an unspoken recollection of Nancy's allegations, but they will not reveal anything to Nancy. Marge instead takes Nancy to a sleep clinic where they monitor her body while she sleeps. Because of their intensity, her nightmare sends the instruments haywire, and when they wake Nancy up, she notices a sudden gray streak in her hair from fear. Nancy is inexplicably holding the killer's fedora, causing another shock to all of them. When she woke up, she says she was holding onto it. Nancy's mother continues to deny that anything is going on, and she insists that Nancy get some sleep. Instead, Nancy makes the fedora and points out that it has a name inside, Fred Krueger. Marge denies knowing who he is, and Nancy reacts angrily. Nancy has a chat with Glenn about how certain Zen masters could control their dreams. Nancy asks what they would do if they encountered a monster in their dreams, and Glenn replies that they would turn their back on it. If you take away a nightmare's energy, it disappears. Nancy is surprised that she thinks she will die as a result of a nightmare, and that she is also reading books on creating booby traps and survival techniques. Nancy's mother takes her down into their own basement and opens up to her and tells her the truth. Marge introduces Nancy to Fred Krueger, a killer who assaulted young children. Krueger's trial was declared inadmissible, assembly of an improperly signed search warrant, and was thus released from jail. Nancy's father and other parents in the neighborhood also murdered Krueger on their own by setting him on fire. Nancy realizes that Freddy is out for revenge. Nancy tries to warn Glenn, but his parents refuse to allow her to speak with him. Even after she rips the phone out of the wall, she receives a taunting phone call from Krueger, and she realizes that Glenn is about to die. Nancy can't save him because her mother has placed metal bars on all of the windows and doors. Freddy kills Glenn as he falls asleep and is sucked into his bed and then shredded until there is nothing but gore left, which erupts into a terrible fountain all over his room.
Glenn? Glenn, how can you listen to television and hear your records at the same time?
Oh, I wasn't listening to the tube, Ma, just watching.
I want you to go to bed. It's almost midnight.
I will, Mom.
Now get to bed.
Nancy realizes she is now alone and must face Freddy. She tells her father that she is going to go and find Freddy and bring him out of her dream, and that she wants her father to be there to arrest Freddy when she does. Lieutenant Thompson doesn't believe her, but he encourages her to go to sleep. Nancy sets up a number of booby traps in the house for Freddy in order to give herself an advantage after she captures him. After saying goodnight to her mother, who is now completely drunk, Nancy falls asleep. Nancy's schemes succeed. The booby traps she has rigged for Freddy help her gain control of him. The cop who came to watch Nancy's house seems to be unable to see that she needs help. Nancy is chased by Freddy through her house and down into her basement, where she sets him on fire. Lieutenant Thompson breaks into the house, but he and Nancy are shocked to see fiery marks emerging from the basement. Freddy is seen arguing with Marge in her bed as they follow the trail upstairs.
I'm crazy after all.
Nancy, what the hell is going on?
He's after
Now do you believe me? I know you're there, Freddy.
You think you was gonna get away from me?
I know you too well now. This is just a dream. You're not alive. I want my mother and friend again.
What?
You're nothing. God, it's bright.
Did I keep you awake last night?
No, I guess I just slept heavy. Hi, everybody.
What's going on? Hey, I'm not doing it.